Well, this whole term we've been focusing on the 50-year celebration of the college, and we're going to culminate that with our speaker today. He was going to talk to us a little bit about how he approaches education and life, frankly. Now, if you think in your mind, what does a chemistry professor look like? And you draw up maybe somebody in the lab, code, and maybe, I don't know how much they relate to the English department, or how they, whatnot. Well, I think if you have any preconceived notions about science professors and chemistry professors, Wes Whitfield's going to blow them up today. I think you'll agree as you get to know him that he's a bundle of energy. He has a real love for life and learning. He's always doing something new, and as you talk to him about his interests, you discover they're really all over the place. And what's so exciting about that is the fact that this rubs off on the students. For students going in perhaps with concern about what it's going to take to be successful in a hard science like chemistry, Wes does a lot to disarm those fears, to encourage them to develop, he spends time in the library tutoring them, to give them everything they need to be successful. And what Wes is going to talk to us today is not just how he approaches the classroom, but how he uses that approach personally in his own life, and sort of anything that he tries, he jumps in head first and really goes at it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our chemistry professor, Wes Whitfield.
Hopefully this is that volume okay. Hello. So this is a very good experience for me. I really appreciate everybody coming today. I'm not shy, so if it seems like I am, I'm really nervous about this microphone. Is it okay? Okay. Great. All right. I'm not shy. Okay. So this is just a little slideshow I presented. I have just a background. First of all, this picture really represents basically what I would say defines me somewhat. That's a picture. I don't know if you can see it very well, but can I turn this light? Or there's a farm up in Iowa called Living History Farms in Des Moines. And as soon as my parents and I went in, there's this grindstone, and I immediately ran out. My mom even told me afterwards. She's like, "I knew exactly what you were going to do when you saw that." But that's me putting my nose to it immediately. And so yeah, there you go. You can see it a little better. But that's me like all the time, constantly. And I don't know how it happened, but it probably has to do with my grandfather big time. But that's kind of what I wanted to introduce myself as. But I use that for this. In terms of teaching, this is how I apply it. I'm a chemist, so I like to talk about chemistry and reactions, and of course reactions can be helped by catalysts. Well, what if the reaction is just becoming more knowledgeable about everything? So that's what I think is what we do in the classroom, is try to be catalysts for the community. Even for people who aren't taking classes, maybe the people who get classes, they can take classes, they learn something, and the next thing you know, they're transferring that knowledge. Because that's what happened to me somehow. I just picked everything up from my surroundings as I grew up. So I'm basically trying to teach to increase awareness. I know a lot of my students might not want to become chemists. They don't really want to even use chemistry knowledge, but I think that they're becoming more aware. I have a couple testimonies. I didn't get them written down in time from a couple students this week, but I'll share them with you as much as I can remember how they were stated to me. So good afternoon. So I have to do things backwards. But so what are catalysts? I kind of mentioned this a little bit. I actually stole this from the internet. It's for Chem for Kids. But this is actually what the picture was on the internet. It's showing you that if this is a reaction, creating products from reactants, there's two different ways of viewing the energy it requires for this to happen. Okay, so there's one, if energy is increasing on this upward angle, or axis, I'm sorry, not angle, then you can see that this one is a pretty high energy. Okay, so in order to go from here to there, you have to cross a big hill. It takes a lot of energy to get up that hill. But when you have a catalyst, then what happens is that hill gets lowered, and so it gets a little easier to cross it. Okay, so that's with respect to chemistry and catalysts. So I changed this a little bit. So, oh, notice it said with spark. So the spark is a catalyst. I just changed this. So I put learning and then learning without spark. So that's how I feel. That's what we're doing in our classrooms. We're trying to maximize that learning. Because if you don't have the spark, then learning isn't as occurring as fast or as much. So this is how I feel what we do is we try to increase that learning. So it's taking the rough idea of a catalyst image. So that's kind of what I feel like happening in my classes especially, is I try to be that spark. So there's the picture of the chemist you're talking about. Here's your spark. So that's from the basketball game against the Wizards, but I wore that for a little while. I'm sure they think of me as this in the classroom every once in a while. Okay, so spark. So what does that come from? I remember those. Some people might be saying some of these things. Some people are like, or does it burn? Yeah. So what is this spark, I guess? Well, it really has to do with a lot. As a teacher, it should always go back to this. We were all students at one time. Cannot forget it. And sometimes that memory is what makes teaching frustrating, but at the same time, it's a common memory in a way. We've all sat there before. So the idea of going back and understanding how to be a catalyst in the classroom for me goes back to this idea of my history as a student. Not just in classroom, but just as, you'll see here in a little bit what I mean by not just in the classroom. So I remember a lot of people's names. I actually memorized my students' names pretty much immediately within the semester. I still have them up here. I don't know how it happens. But these are some professors and teachers throughout my life that did that exact same thing I'm mentioning, is this catalyst in the classroom. So of course my mother was a big one on that. Grandparents of course are big, but these are all kinds of instructors: science, art, history, biology. Mr. Swenson was probably one of the biggest catalysts for just not ever shutting off your creativity, the same as Miss Google. But these are just people that they taught me about the spark somehow. Okay, so here's what they did, and I'm not going to just read all of these. You can kind of read them while I'm talking a little bit, but in terms of having a spark in catalyzing learning in the classroom, this is what I feel they did, and this is what I try to do. They were always telling me about these mysteries, and some that haven't been solved yet, and then ones that were solved, here's the explanation for it. And that explanation was amazing most of the time. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. And at the same time, though, they did it in a way that it still left open questions. And if you don't have any left open questions, then you really just kind of shut off. So that left open question, leaving questions open, is really a part of that spark. Okay, I would hope that my students walk out going, oh man, he answered everything but this. I'm going to go check this out. They always told me that there was so much more waiting out there. And I know that that's important these days because the job is what everybody's talking about, but at the same time, to be a catalyst in the community, you don't have to just have this, just the job be the only thing. So there's always much more out there. So discoveries, learning about yourself, just anything that has to do with the world around you, there's way more than that job after this. So I was always taught that. Stories about successes and failures, it's fun to share those. They told me I would have mine as well, and that was good to hear. Errors can be fixed. That was one of the things that I was taught by a lot of people. My grandfather was big on that. And just basically, if you make a mistake, you just don't do it again, but you can still fix it somehow. This one here, a lot of them did for me, made hard work look easy, and that's one of the things that I try to, I guess, catalyze in the classroom is that, yes, it seems like this is going to not be fun for tonight, studying and working on these problems, but I'm going to try to make it look easy at least, so then you're not scared of it. That doesn't work all the time, but that is definitely what happened for me. A lot of people worked hard in my life, and they made it look easy. Going outside and exploring, that was something that was totally instilled by all my teachers, including my mother mainly. But this one here, back to the grindstone picture, that was probably one of the bigger ones for myself, encouraged me not to be idle, and that's kind of what I really try to get people to see in my classroom as well, is that just because you finish studying your classes doesn't mean you just turn that on. Do something. See the previous statement. Do something. There's so much to do. And I talk with that enthusiasm while I'm teaching, that I think it rubs off sometimes, and people are like, yeah, I'm going to go do this too, I'm going to do that too. And so people helped me do that by not being idle, by also making sure I was never bored. So my grandmother bought me books, she bought me activities. My grandpa took me fishing, my mom took me caving. I did all this stuff. I was never idle. I think that's a big deal today. I think that there's a lot of devices and technology that just makes people idle. And so I try to push that. Like, it is not over just because you have that cell phone doesn't mean you're done. It's not all here. So go out and keep doing stuff. So, and also just reading. Reading is so much fun. Oh, and age doesn't matter. That's what all my elders in my family taught me. And that is really applicable in a community college setting, because I don't have just 18 to 24-year-olds. You know, I have a lot older students too, and a lot of times they're a lot of fun. They're hilarious, actually, and it's really fun when they take their experiences, like what I'm kind of talking about here, with their philosophies of things, and they actually throw it into the classroom, and all the other students learn off of that. That is really fun too. So they're catalyzing. In other words, they must have had some kind of spark before, and now they're transferring it to their own fellow students. So really, age doesn't matter. It's just attitude, really. And that's what hopefully a spark can also change. So I love my subject. That's another thing that I was taught by some professors at college and university. A lot of them didn't like their subject anymore. They just wanted to get the grant repeated, the money coming, and then that's your university professors would have research, and then I guess I got to be here, I got to teach this, back to the lab. So I learned a lot from that. Not saying that they were bad instructors, but I just remember thinking, you know everything about this and you don't love it anymore? How is that possible? So I love my subject so much that this list no time, and I talk about this during teaching. It doesn't matter if I'm just telling them how to relate some ratio to another ratio. This is coming up in that conversation. So I always tell them this is never stopping. Chemistry's always going. And that means that you need to help it keep going. It helps describe life, a lot of aspects of life. I mean, how a person becomes diabetic and why insulin works, or how does calcium deposits in your body work, that kind of stuff. I really go into the details of how chemistry describes that. And then, of course, for my engineering students, a lot of them like to know about materials. I got a lot of pharmaceutical students, or pharmacists-to-be. They like to know about medicines. Protection, whether it be like antivirals or even military protection. Diversity of all the chemicals in the world gives you the diversity of all the materials we can ever think of. We know how to make them. The wonder of chemistry. It will always provide wonder, chemistry does. Endless exploration, so back to go outside and explore. And just being aware. And then, of course, chemists make catalysts. So it's all full circle in a way. Kind of interesting little cycle there with catalysis. So this is just a short list of things that I love about my subject, but these are the things that I actually have watched and listened to myself and then heard testimonies of my students. This is what they get out. The ones who are really into it and really put forth the effort to study, this is what they get out of my classes, is the applicability of it, and they get interested in this. So I guess the spark is somewhat working there. So what are the goals then? So if I know that I want to have this catalysis happen, this is really my goals. These are my goals for being a teacher of the sciences. I really want to just have students have an increased awareness of the body and its surroundings, big time. That's extremely important, and I say that because I have a lot of nursing students. Instilling curiosity and exploration, and that goes hand in hand with the spark, big time, because if you don't have that spark to become curious, then you're just learning something to store and then dump when it's done. I think it's good to have this knowledge base get built. And that's what I think, if you can do that for the students once they go back into their community, now they inspire that. So that's that spark, that's a catalysis, you're catalyzing that. And I'll give you some anecdotes here about that here in a moment, but promote the demand for logic. I have a lot of times witnessed the inability of many students who are brand new to school, whether they're returners or they're coming right out of high school, that they don't want to use the logical approach to solving something. It's more of, that's what the textbook says. That's what the textbook says. Yeah, but what if that textbook's not there, right? And if your boss is calling on you to do something. So the logic is what I try to promote as well. Cumulative and connected thinking process. That's something that's big, but this is a big one for me, and especially the bottom one, but inspiring that belief in the power of yourself to build more knowledge, to use more knowledge, and to add to the knowledge base itself. So that is what I'm trying to catalyze in the classroom, that they'll be good catalysts for that after that, when they go out and talk to their relatives, maybe their family. That's big for me. That is what I feel like a goal of a teacher is. And of course, for the science people that want, like the students who want to go into science or who are scared of science, either one, not keeping that science understanding out of reach, because society has tended to make it something that's untouchable, okay, a lot of times, or alienated. So I try to make it like, oh, it's not untouchable. It's right there. You got it. You can totally do this. Isn't it amazing? That's what I always say. Isn't this crazy amazing that this works this way? And everyone's like, yeah. They get more and more throughout the semester. So keeping that within reach is something that I shoot for. So I just want to go back to the not being idle, because I think that when you're not idle, I think the spark is easier to keep lit, to pass on. So not being idle, and this is just a few things that I do for not being idle, and I actually tell my students about this all the time. So I'll ask every time I walk into class, I say, how's everybody doing today? Did you have a good weekend? Tell me what happened. What happened? You know, what'd you guys do? Any of you have crazy stories? And a lot of times, you know, in the very beginning, there's like, and then somebody will say, I went to a movie. Oh, my car broke down. And the next time, yes, I went to this concert and blah, 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 blah. And the concert, they feel like they can share the concert because I told them that I played drums. So now they are not afraid to talk about going to see music, because I think they might think it's inappropriate. I don't know why they don't want to talk about music. And then I'll say that I painted a picture over the weekend, or I tried to paint a picture. And then somebody says, hey, I did the same thing, or I like art a lot. And then somebody says, oh, do you do anything besides painting? I'm like, well, I read a lot. And somebody says, yeah, I don't like to read, but I like to write. So that's cool, what do you write? And they're like, oh, I'm like, I write poetry. And so next thing you know, I get people coming in throughout the rest of the semester saying, I wrote something last night, or I read something, I read a book, or next thing you know, now they're getting a spark to not be idle. And that's kind of another goal I try to get, is that once your schoolwork's done, don't be done. You know, try to keep increasing that, keep going, getting interest taken care of before it's too late. So answers, I don't have them all. I don't pretend to. I think a lot of times students think that we are up here saying that I know everything, I have the answers, ha ha ha, you don't have them. You'll be graded on that. But at the same time, we have to know what are the questions. So I don't have all the answers, and I also don't know what all the questions are. And I try to engage my class so much. I try to put questions in, I build them into the PowerPoint. I stole that from another instructor. I'll put questions into the PowerPoint, and then I'll even ask more questions. So I really try to get them to answer questions that I have. They're not graded, but it's just fun to question. I question them all the time. And the answers are hilarious. Sometimes they're like way wrong or way off mark. But a lot of times, you have to, as an instructor, you got to be careful. You may have a preconceived notion of what the answer sounds like, and you sit there and you're like, oh yes, that is, yeah, good. I'm the one who didn't think about that answer, and that's a real fun moment. So then that gives them this spark that, oh wow, I don't have to give that textbook answer. I just used logic and I just did something different. So that's really fun, and those students get more and more active about that throughout the semester. So thank you. Any answers? So I do just want any answers. But I have some questions. So does anybody have a specific grade? It could be middle school, elementary, high school, or college, in which you just have like a major memory of a spark. Yes?
My professor here, Mr. Stansfield,
Mm-hmm.
from this college, I like math and science, by the way. And I'm gonna teach like him.
Cool.
So I
Do
became a teacher.
you remember what was like a major aspect that struck you?
He never made me feel stupid.
Cool. That's hard to not do sometimes, I have to admit. I don't mean to on purpose. I'm like, ah. Well, that's good. That's what I strive for. I need to get better at that myself. Anybody else have a? Yes, sorry, Joe.
Back in 6th grade, I think it was, I was getting educated in a small parochial school, and one of the students' father worked at McDonnell Douglas, and this was during the era of Gemini and all the space exploration and everything. And he would come in once a month, sometimes more often, and bring little parts of the space capsule or things, and just to go and pass around and tell some anecdotes. And that was just the biggest spark event I think I ever had. Just seeing the materials and knowing that they went up into space, and it just made a fountain of questions bloom in my mind.
That's so neat. That's awesome. Anybody else? You know you want to. Yeah.
I had a Latin teacher in high school, and she could have made Cicero incomprehensible. But she seemed to look at you, oh, I know what your problem is, and she'd straighten it out. In another age, she'd have been burned as a witch. I was really lucky. I had her.
That's cool. Wow, Latin, that's neat. Yeah.
Sometimes there are negative sparks.
Mm-hmm.
I attended some of the early model public schools in Illinois, near Chicago. I attended the first comprehensive high school, and there I was very active in dramatics, and my father bought a house in another school district. So after 2 years in the first high school, and I'd earned my school letter in drama, I attended Riverside Brookfield High School, which is still one of the top high schools in this country. And the English teacher there wouldn't allow me to be in the drama club because they didn't know me. And I was so furious, I discovered I needed only 15 credits to graduate from high school. And I was 15, so I took a course in summer school, got my diploma, went to the University of Chicago, where I entered as a junior on the basis of testing. Of course, that was the Hutchins College. Had a marvelous time in Chicago. But that teacher that was so nasty in high school was the spark that got me onto college.
Nice. That's cool. Anybody else? So I just have some pictures I want to show, and then I have a video at the end. Anybody else want to share? Okay. So let's see, I just have some pictures for some other things that happened here at the college. That's actually not the college. This is my band, Hoodoo Bayou. It's a blues band I'm in playing at Tetro. Some of you have seen me play there. I'm actually going to play a clip of my band just to show you what I do outside of the classroom. But I picked a video because actually when you watch me drum, some people who have actually watched me, they're like, your whole personality is actually all revealed right there as you're playing drums. Like it matches what you're doing right then and there. But so this is, Jeffrey Covert is an amazing student here. He's one of the best drummers I think I've seen at the college in terms of jazz band. He's very good. And he actually came up with, he actually took my chemistry class and did very well as well. He came up with some patterns for the Take Back Tonight and brought all the drums, and I brought my drum set, and we had this nice circle where we played beats that he actually arranged some of these, and we did a little of a call and response. And then of course, it's hard to maintain that. When people have drums, it's really hard to be like, what do I do next? I don't care, I'm gonna do whatever. So we had this really cool circle going on. So that was I feel like I can't say I sparked his music because he already was a great musician, but I had definitely noticed that Jeffrey really just took a lot of excitement from me. And we've talked a little bit about that here and there. This is a young boy that was at the thing. He totally took a spark from all of us playing drums, and he just wanted to play. So he played these drums for a while. It was a lot of fun. He had a blast. So hopefully he got a little bit of the spark passed to him that night. That's us playing at the 50th. That was a nice stage setup for us. This kid was awesome. So this is also the 50th. I did a couple of experiments. Aaron Cooper is another fabulous student here at the college. He's taken all my courses except for intro. He's in my Gen Chem 2 right now. Very good student. But he helped me with the Diet Coke and Mentos experiment, and I put my lab coat on him and gave him some glasses, and this kid just loved it. Oh, it was so fun. He loved it, and hopefully that sparked him. Wearing the coat at least probably did a lot of that. I mean, he was like, yeah, yeah. Want me to put it on him, the coat? His arm's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, hold on, here's your coat. And then she loved it too. She got out of the way, but that's a good picture of this. Somebody captured this really well. But she really got into it, but she was hilarious. She just kept backing away the whole time. So whoever took these pictures got her backing away at least 3 different shots of her. So that's the furthest she got. But so those 2 kids loved having the goggles and the lab coat on. And they got to put the Mentos into the Diet Coke, so that was cool. I just threw some of my art just to kind of throw, since I'm an artist. This is nothing that spectacular, but over the years I do have at least time. That's one of my first paintings that I actually like, and then that's a drawing I did. So these are just things that I do in my spare time to keep myself not idle. And this is a video of the band, so we don't want to have it too loud. Is it? How do I?
It's that now.
Sound system? Okay. I don't know if you can see it, but can we turn that light off? There's a lot of energy when I play, so. This is just free jamming too. I think my mind works as fast as my hands move. From here on out, you'll be able to see more of the energy. So if you like that style of music, you're more than welcome to come out. We play at the Tetro's restaurant. But so I love that video so much because I didn't have the chance to play music as a boy. I think my mom let me try valve trombone. That is not fun. Everyone's sliding and you're valving. That's not fun. So I did that for a very short period of time. It was terrible. So my mom didn't do this on purpose, but it was rough for her. She was a single mother raising me, and she couldn't afford drums or any music equipment. So I just dumped that idea and went to college and found a really cheap drum set and basically taught myself from 1996. Yeah, I bought a drum set in 96 and just began teaching myself. So when I was done studying, I would go in the basement and I would just take books with right, left, right, right, left, right, right, and I would just teach myself. So I love that video because that video just shows that throughout all the practice, I didn't lose anything with respect to like creativity, imagination, energy. I just actually, it's like the perfect outlet for me besides the classroom. So that spark I try to pass when I play drums is exactly how I feel when I teach. It's just a different set of paradiddles and tricks and motions of the sticks. You know, I just really try to have that same energy in the classroom. That's the spark I try to give. So I don't think I have anything more to add. But thank you.